Alright, so we did our Duquesnoy-Levine testing on our substances, and then now we're ready to do the Marquee testing. Again, Marquee is a very valuable chemical color test because it helps us narrow down several different drugs, because it reacts not only with amphetamine drugs like amphetamines and methamphetamine, even MDMA or ecstasy, but it also reacts with opioid drugs, things like heroin, morphine, and codeine. The Marquee test turns orangish brown in the presence of amphetamines, either amphetamine or methamphetamine, and then it turns a purplish color in the presence of opioids like heroin, codeine, and morphine. It turns black with ecstasy, which is methylene dioxymethamphetamine or MDMA. It is important to remember that these chemical color tests are only presumptive, meaning that they don't confirm the presence of the drug, because there are some substances that actually give us a false positive, and you're going to actually see that as you do this exercise. You might find that some of the substances you're testing from your home, maybe the coffee for example, or maybe the patchouli oil, might give a positive even though they don't actually contain the drug. So the presumptive tests tell us that we probably have the drug, but it's important to remember that we have to go on and do a confirmatory test, typically using some sort of instrument like a gas chromatograph mass spectrometer or GCMS, or an FTIR or Fourier transform infrared spectrophotometer. But we're going to do the Marquee test. The Marquee test, the first thing we're going to test using the Marquee is actually a sample of codeine. This is actually a prescription that I received a year or so ago when I was ill. It was used to help treat a cough I was having. And so this is a low dose of cough suppressant, which actually has a little bit of codeine in it. We're actually going to test it to see if it actually tests positive using our Marquee test. Now remember, codeine is an opioid, or an opiate, so it should turn purple in the presence of our Marquee test. So we're going to suck up just a little bit of the codeine here. In fact, we might put quite a bit in actually in there. So I got my codeine in there. By the way, the transfer pipettes that you're using, you're going to use the transfer pipette primarily to test the patchouli oil when you do the Duquesnoy-Levine test. So that's why you actually have the pipette. I'm using a pipette now just to pipette some of the codeine into our Marquee test. So I got our codeine inside of our test kit. I'm going to go ahead and clamp this shut again. All right. Now the Marquee test is an easier test to do than the Duquesnoy simply because it only has just one chemical mixture or one reagent in there. So there's really only just one vial to break, and it's the one right there in the middle. So we're going to go ahead and squeeze that and break it. And then we're going to shake it and see if we get a color change. And if you notice, almost immediately we get a deep, dark, very purplish color, which is a positive for the presence of an opioid. Now, it would have turned that purple color in the presence of morphine or heroin or codeine or hydrocodone. So there's no way for me to know for sure using only this test which of the opioids I have here. So that's again why it's only a presumptive test. It doesn't confirm the presence of any particular drug. All right, let's test something else. Poppy seeds. Now, poppy seeds, when you plant poppy seeds, you get opium poppy plants. And poppy plants are where opium comes from, and opium is used to make the opioid drugs. So opium can be turned into morphine, morphine can be turned into heroin or codeine or those other drugs. And so almost all opioid drugs come from the poppy seed. And believe it or not, if you eat enough poppy seeds and we were to test your blood for toxicology, you would have a positive test for the presence of opium in your system, because there is a little bit of opium in poppy seeds. The question though is there enough opium in poppy seeds to test positive for drugs? And so we're going to test some poppy seeds using one of our Marquee tests here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up one of my Marquee reagents. Go ahead and open up my spices here. Pour some poppy seeds in here, and then we'll test them and see what we get. So these same poppy seeds, these are the same poppy seeds that you would have if you had a poppy seed muffin or a poppy seed bagel. And so we have a bunch of poppy seeds now here. Again, we're going to squeeze the middle vial to release our reagent. Again, it's got a little bit of concentrated sulfuric acid in there. And we're going to shake it up. Now, if you were to break this, by the way, if you were to get a little bit of that sulfuric acid on your hands, just go ahead and wash your hands off really quick. It's not likely to do any damage unless you let it sit there for some time. So anyway, we broke our vial. We're shaking it, and unlike before, it looks like the liquid's a little bit yellowish, but we're not seeing the deep dark purple color that we were seeing before. So even though there is opium in poppy seeds, there's not enough to test positive using the reagent. So poppy seeds do not test positive using the Marquee test. All right, what about other substances? What about an aspirin? All right, let's see about an aspirin. Let's see what happens there. So these are just some generic aspirin that purchased at the store. Aspirin sometimes do react in the presence of the Marquee reagent. We'll have to see. One of the things I haven't done here, and I probably would recommend that you do, if you do test your aspirin, is actually to maybe grind it up. You can actually take like a metal spoon and push hard and crush it. It'll probably react a little bit better. We'll see if it'll react just as a pill form here. So put my aspirin inside there. I'm going to go ahead and let it sink down to the bottom. All right, I'm going to close up my thing here. I'm going to break my vial. Let it mix with my aspirin a little bit. Some reactions take a little bit longer. Typically the reaction is pretty quick, almost instantaneous. Some can take, though, a few minutes, so you might want to, before you write negative on your sheet, you might want to let it sit for a little bit. Our aspirin here, we're not getting much of a reaction. Looks like maybe a little bit of a pinkish, maybe a little reddish color. If we let that sit a little bit longer, we'll probably get a little better reaction. I would recommend that before you test this on your own for your own exercise, that you actually grind up the aspirin before you test it. So anyway, that's how you do the Marquee test. Once you have completed all of your tests, make sure you fill out your worksheet. I've got the worksheet pulled up here on my laptop, so I can go ahead and record all of my results. And then once you've recorded all your results, make sure you submit your completed worksheet to me to receive credit for this assignment. So anyway, that's the testing. These are the presumptive drug testing things that we use. There's other ones I didn't show you, but these are the most common. Marquee and Ducanolevine are the ones that we certainly use the most. So, all right, hope you guys have fun.